That's House Speaker Nancy Pelosi concluding the Congressional Gold Medal Award ceremony for members of the U.S. Capitol Police, the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Hundreds of officers receiving some of the highest praise you'll ever hear from a bipartisan group of members of Congress, both the leaders from the Democratic Party, the leaders from the Republican Party, all rightfully singing the praises of those officers who showed up and fought for the Capitol that day, January 6th. Almost 2 years ago there. You heard from each member of Congress about how they personally were grateful. In a lot of these instances where you hear people receiving these awards, it's about tales of great bravery and honor that have been told or passed along. In this instance, it was from members of Congress who felt that they personally were saved or rescued, sometimes in multiple instances, by these brave officers here. And as you heard from there are a number of striking quotes, but one that wrapped it up, I thought, nicely from Senator Mitch McConnell was simply, "Thank you for saving our country," as all of these officers now are the recipients of the highest civilian honor that we have in the United States of America that goes all the way back to 1776. And for more on this, we want to bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien, our reporter on Capitol Hill, along with our ABC News contributors, former Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley and of New York, and former Republican Congressman Tom Graves of Georgia. Jay, I will begin with you. These hundreds of officers receiving this award, what does this mean for them?
Yeah, Trevor, I think it's important to start with Speaker Pelosi there, because she underscored exactly what this means both to those officers and to the country, which is it's a display and it's a thank you for their heroism on January 6th. Nancy Pelosi's office was breached by Capitol rioters on that day. They called out her name. And so she was in personal risk, and lawmakers across the Capitol felt that they were at personal risk from these rioters who had breached the building and who were in that exact place, that exact rotunda, as I was saying earlier, where they are now holding this ceremony today. Mitch McConnell summed up what the Capitol Police mean to those who work here, the lawmakers, their staff, even us in the press who come here every day. They are the first people that you see when you work at the Capitol in the morning, and they are the last people you see when you go home at night. And that is incredibly accurate and speaks to how much of a mark the United States Capitol Police leave on this building every single day, and their sacrifices that day and days since then and days before then. But one more thing that it's worth pointing out here, because of the unfortunate political environment, we've got to talk about politics here. Kevin McCarthy, who rarely talks about January 6th because of the political atmosphere that has sprung up around it, mentions January 6th for one of the first times in a long time today. And I want to tell you a little bit of what he said. He talked about repaying the debt, this award, repaying the debt that lawmakers have to those Capitol Police officers and to those D.C. Metro Police officers who kept them safe on that day, adding that the Capitol Police and the D.C. Metro Police are heroes who protected so many from harm that day. And that is certainly not one of the most noteworthy quotes coming out of this day as it relates to Capitol Police sacrifice, but it is noteworthy because Kevin McCarthy is referencing January 6th for the first time at least by my count, in a long time, Trevor.
Definitely. I took note of that as well. I should clarify also, when I talk about the highest civilian honor, this is the highest civilian honor from Congress, certainly a worthy award. Let's go to former Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley. I'm curious, Congressman, we heard it from Jay there, we heard it from all those members of Congress about the personal relationships that you form with the security when you're there at the Capitol. How did you feel about how all these Capitol Police were honored there today?
Well, I think it was a great tribute to them. My experience, I think Tom Graves can speak to this as well, is this is typically a more celebratorial event, and there was clapping that went on, but it was a bit more somber today because you know what these men and women did to protect the lives of those very men and women in that rotunda today. Remember, this rotunda was familiar to John Adams, to Abraham Lincoln, and to John Kennedy. In fact, Abraham Lincoln and John Kennedy were laid out in their coffins in that very rotunda. It's a very special place. It's also a place that was where defecation and urination took place, and that was the least of the desecration that took place that day. Lives were lost, and these men and women, we knew them. As was just said by your reporter, that we would see them when we came in that day. We'd see them throughout the day, and when we see them, we were leaving the Capitol. So it was very somber and at the same time poignant in terms of the tribute that was paid to these men and women today. And aside from all what causes, who causes, it's irrelevant at the moment. Right now, it's about celebrating those lives of who are lost, as well as those men and women who showed such profound bravery.
Tom Graves, a former Republican congressman from Georgia, it's not often we see the highest ranking members of Democrats and Republicans together echoing the same message. What do you make of the bipartisanship of the ceremony?
Trevor, I mean, it was really nice today, I guess, to see, both parties coming together, both chambers coming together, and rightfully so recognizing the Capitol Police and for what they do. And, Joe did a fantastic job of describing our relationships with them as members. And because we recognize that, their husbands and wives, they're fathers and mothers. I mean, they're individuals. They're just doing their job every day to ensure, more than anything, that it's a very open place. And I heard great terms today, the guardians of democracy or defenders of democracy, but they also provide a special balance between democracy taking place and an interactive government. When I think about so many constituents who visit, they remark at how they can actually physically touch the Capitol building, how they can sit on the steps, or they can stand on it, they can take the selfies, they can just interact with the people of government. And that's just such a powerful idea here in our country, and the Capitol Police have afforded that. And in fact, the other day I walked across the Capitol Plaza and internally remarked at how awesome it is. It is still open. It is still open. It's still available for people to visit and to interact with their government. And that wouldn't be possible without the men and women of the Capitol Police.
Absolutely. And our Joe O'Brien made that point, to see this ceremony happening in the middle of the rotunda there, where now you're seeing all these people shaking hands and really celebrating that heroism. It is remarkable, and it is a fitting celebration of all of that bravery and heroism. Jay, I'd like to ask you, you touched on this a little bit in your first answer, where we heard Kevin McCarthy talking how he spoke about what happened on January 6th. Coming up on 2 years down the road here, we hear this increased politicization of what happened on that day. When you're speaking with members of Congress, is there any evolution in how people are discussing the events of that day?
Well, here inside the Capitol, as we have been talking about earlier, Trevor, and across D.C. and again across the country, there is this ongoing debate as to how January 6th should be honored, should be remembered, and should be taught in history going forward. Because, as you said, aspects of it now have a political environment surrounding them. And today is one moment along that longer road of how January 6th goes down in history. You heard Chuck Schumer say it himself. The Capitol is an enduring symbol of democracy. So an attack on that building, on that enduring symbol of democracy, the Capitol Dome, going back to the Civil War, when it was built through the Civil War at Lincoln's request, despite the need for those materials, some said in other places, a symbol then and a symbol now. So again, an attack on that symbol, how does it go down in history? How is it remembered? And today is an event to firstly, obviously, honor the heroism of those Capitol police officers, of those D.C. Metro police officers who defended this building on that day. And then secondly, a means of saying from both parties, this is one of the ways that we choose to remember January 6th. And it's worth noting those medals will go to D.C. Metro Police, they'll go to the Capitol Police, one will stay here in the Capitol, and then one will go to the Smithsonian to honor the sacrifices of those who defended this building on January 6th.
Out in public view. All right, Jay O'Brien for us on Capitol Hill. Thank you, as well as former members of Congress, Joe Crowley and Tom Graves as well. We appreciate all of your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.